We have some amazing speakers and guests today. I can't wait to introduce you to them. But what we really want from you guys today is we want your engagement. So you'll notice there's a comment section there. I would love, as we go through today's 60-minute session, for you to engage and ask any questions that you have. We're also going to have two polls throughout the session where we're going to ask you questions, which again, we'd love you to participate with. Now, I hear what you're saying. You're saying, well, what's in it for me? What's in it for me, Greg? Well, the NSAI is Ireland's official standards body, and it sells thousands of standards online every year through its web store. So what we're going to do is at the end of the webinar series, and there's a couple of webinars coming up, we're going to give 5 lucky people €50 in NSAI web store credit. So that's what's in it for you. So all what you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is to leave a comment or participate in one of our polls this afternoon. Now, let's get the engagement started, shall we? So let me pop up our first question before we officially kick things off. So what we want to find out here is how you would rate your knowledge of the certification journey for ISO IEC 27001, from 1 to 5, with 1 being very, very poor. That's what I'm rating, very poor, and 5 means very, very good. So if you just take a moment just to place that vote, that would be amazing. Do you know what would also be lovely to do right about now is to mention who our guests are today. So let me tell you who we're going to be talking to today. So on the stage right there, I didn't even know he was getting on the stage. We have the fantastic Dennis Ryan from the NSAI, who will be speaking in a moment. Who else do we have in the virtual green room? We have the incredible Avril Ryan. Avril O'Brien, should I say? Get it right, Greg. Avril O'Brien. So you're very, very welcome, Avril O'Brien. We have another Ryan. We have David Ryan here from the NSAI. He's going to be dazzling us with his knowledge in a little bit. And last but not least, that we're going to be chatting to today, we have the fantastic Callie. So here are amazing speakers today. So guys, you're very, very welcome. They're very quiet, aren't they? Hopefully they're going to speak more when they speak.
Good to be here. Thank you, Greg.
Cheers, Greg.
No worries. So hopefully you guys have had a chance to vote on that question. So it's still up there on the screen. And as you guys have done that, hopefully right now, I see some great votes in there. Let's bring onto the screen our first speaker today, which is Dennis. So Dennis, there's no hiding now. There's no hiding now. So very, very welcome to the stage, Dennis. Now,
hi, Greg. Good afternoon, everybody.
How are you doing? Dennis, why do you tell everyone what you do in the NSAI?
I look after the ISO 27000 series here in NSAI and have global responsibility for certification to that standard. I also conduct audits to the ISO 27001 standards, so certify companies. And we conduct audits around the world, both in Ireland, Europe, Asia, and in the US. And we have a global client base for the ISO 27001 certification and the series. And I also certify to other schemes as well. So if you've integrated systems, we do the quality, environmental, and health and safety standards as well. So, whatever your certification requirements are, NSAI can offer those to you.
Brilliant. So you're going to talk us through, give us an introduction to the ISO IC 27001 And more importantly, what I really want to figure out what exactly it is and why companies need this. So this is going to be what Dennis is going to assist us with here. Dennis, just making sure these are your slides we're looking at here.
Those are my slides. Yeah, so we're just going to do a quick introduction to the ISO 27001, a whistle-round tour of the standard itself, what it is, why do you need an information security management system, and if you can move on the slides there, please, Greg. What it is, what it will mean for your company. If you're already certified to another standard, what's the add-on to get 27001, and an overview of the certification journey that applies for getting certified, registered to ISO 27001. You move it on, please, Greg. What is ISO 27001? ISO 27001 is the internationally agreed best framework for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and improving an information security management system for an organization. The requirements in the standard are generic and are applicable to all organizations, regardless of type, size, or nature. It is the gold standard to adopt for protecting your financial data, intellectual property, IT, and customer information. The standard requires you to conduct a risk assessment of the threats and vulnerabilities to cybersecurity and privacy information in your organization. What are the risks to confidentiality? What are the risks to integrity of your system? And what are the risks to availability of your IT system? This risk assessment allows IT personnel to present to management what is perceived as the current highest risks to confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your IT systems. Having determined what those risks are, management can then determine a risk treatment plan, allocate a budget, purchase tools or resources, or decide to live with the risk. There can be different risk approaches: avoidance, reduction, transfer, or acceptance of the risk. The focus in the standard is also on continuous improvement, as the threat landscape is continually changing and methodologies for response to security events and event planning is required. Plans for dealing with security incidents, depending on their severity, must be in place in an organization. Next slide there, Greg, please. What is ISO 27001? The current version of the standard is dated 2022. However, the 2013 version is still valid until October 2025. I'm going to focus today on the 2022 version. You can see on the left there are 6 main areas in the body of the standard. We call them clauses. Clause 4 details the needs and expectations of interested parties and the scope, where your standard applies, the organization and the context of the organization and what applies in your system. The 5 and 6 deals with leadership and planning, how to demonstrate leadership in a cyber resilience organization, the policies, the risk assessment, the risk treatment planning, defined risks and responsibilities, and typical improvement goals and objectives. Part 7 of the standard deals with the competence of the personnel in your IT, competence of the personnel across your organization, and awareness of cybersecurity, communication, how do you communicate to all of the personnel in your organization, what they need to do to interact with the system, and the operational planning. Section 9 of the standards deals with internal audits. Is your procedures and processes embedded in your organization? How do you know where to focus your corrective action? How are you monitoring the effectiveness of your system? What information you give to management? How management can review how well the system is implemented? Is it working for management? Is it giving management information it needs? And section 10 of the standard focuses on improvement. How are you addressing pen test issues? How are you addressing vulnerabilities, methodology and handling of non-conformance, typically internal audit issues, customer feedback, those kind of areas. A lot of the work in implementing the standard involves addressing the 93 security controls contained in Annex A. You see that in the red on the right there. The organization must document a statement of applicability detailing how these 93 controls are addressed, and also if there are some controls that are not applicable. Example, if your organization does not develop software, then obviously, as you know, the software development controls will not apply. So the summary there is 93 controls applicable in Annex A of the standard. Next slide there, please, Greg. These are the Annex A. These are the Annex A, the 93 Annex A controls in a summary type format. There are 4 main categories. Category A5 contains the organization controls. I haven't listed them all there, but there are 37 controls that you need to adopt within A5 of the Annex A. They detail, segregation of duties, threat intelligence, for example, inventory of assets, acceptable use of assets, classification of data, access rights, incident management, business continuity, your policies in cloud services, how you control your cloud services, how you control suppliers. So 37 controls in the organizational area. In the A6 area, which is focused on your people controls, there are 8 separate controls. For example, there'll be screening, disciplinary process, non-disclosure, contracts, security awareness, your joiners and leavers policy, all addressed within those controls. The A7 controls, that's 14 of them, they address physical, for example, your physical security perimeters, physical entry to your offices, clear desk policies, secure disposal of equipment and evidence of that. In section A8 of the annex, you have 34 technological controls. These focus on endpoint devices, privileged access control, access rights review, malware protection, data leakage protection, backup, logging, web filtering, cryptography. Again, there's a number of controls within here. If you're developing software, for example, secure coding, your software development, lifecycle modeling, how you're testing, security testing. There's controls on change management. And one of the most important one is the management of the technical vulnerabilities within your system related to your information security. For example, results of pen testing and what your vulnerability tools and alerts are telling you about the vulnerabilities that are current in your system. So that's a quick summary of all of the controls. Next slide there, please, Greg. What does it mean for your company? IBM published an annual cost of data breach report, and according to IBM, the average global cost of a data breach in 2023 was $4.45 million. However, monetary loss is just the beginning. Nobody wants to do business with a company who has been breached or has a history of being breached, and the reputational cost can damage your organization. Reputational damage and possible fines if there's a breach of privacy or legislation. Management can be confident that policy and procedures are in place to manage compliance, and you can safely communicate with customers and suppliers without information being intercepted. Next slide, please. From a marketing point of view, NSAI, we want you to be able to tell your customers that you have been independently certified to be a cyber resilient organization. You will have a certificate that is accepted and respected worldwide, and you can use that certificate to expand, into markets for your organization in Europe, UK, USA, Asia, and around the world. The standard, the certification is accepted globally, and you can go out there and tell your customers that yes, I perform at best practice when it comes to cybersecurity, and we don't bring any risk. We mitigate the risk for doing business with us. Next slide there, please. However, there's a bit of work to be done. You have to, adopt the processes detailed in the standard, define the responsibilities, improve your management process and your risk strategy. And for example, in areas of GDPR, there's risk assessment compliance. You have to classify your data, label it, and treat it accordingly to its classification. Next slide. For organizations that are already certified, you may have a 9000 certification or environmental certification or health and safety certification. The good news is the 27001 is structured in the same format. So you will already be possibly doing internal audits, management review, continuing improvement, those kind of areas. As we said before, the additional areas you'll have to address, and a bit of work to be done in doing that, is you have to put in a statement of applicability which will address the 93 controls that we detailed in Annex A and how you have addressed those and implemented them in your organization. If you have to do a risk assessment of the confidentiality, integrity and availability of your IT system, risk treatment planning, response to security incidences and business continuity plans, etc. That need to be addressed in your organization. So a little bit of work to do there in improving compliance to 27001. Next slide. A quick overview of your certification journey. Number one, familiarize yourself with the requirements of the standard. You can purchase that on our website. Conduct a self-assessment. My colleague Callie will be going through the self-assessment process on the NSAI website in a couple of minutes. Implement the system. Apply for certification. Ask us, send us an email, whatever, or apply on our website for fill in the RFQ, apply for certification, conduct the audit, and at the end of that, you will get a certificate which you can use worldwide. Next slide. There are additional standards you can buy. There's a whole family of ISO 27001 standards. For example, 27002 gives you additional guidance on how to implement those controls. 27003 gives you implementation guidance as well. 27701 is privacy information management system standards. This is an addition to 27001, where organizations, if you're a processor or controller of personally identifiable records, there are an additional 38 controls there you can address to show how in control of your records that you are. And for those of you in the healthcare sector, there's ISO 27799. If you're in a healthcare environment like a hospital or a healthcare institution, that interprets the ISO 27001 specific to the healthcare industry. There are protection of PII in the cloud, 27018, and a code of practice for what you should do when adopting cloud services in your organization, 27017. There are lots of those. We just highlighted some of them, and they're available for purchase on our website as well. Okay, that's the next slide. Thank you very much, I think, is the next slide. Thank you very much, and any questions you have, let us know.
Brilliant stuff, Dennis. Couple of questions already that have popped up here. Let's just see whether we can address them. Hold on. See if I can pop this one here. How do we make sure we're ready for certification? So this all sounds very valuable, very necessary, but how do we get ready for certification?
Well, there's two bits of advice I'd give you. Number one is you could use our self-assessment tool on the website, which Callie will be going through in a few minutes, and that'll give you an indication of how ready you are. Can you put a numeric measure on it of how ready you are for certification? That's an excellent tool. We've had excellent feedback from the marketplace, from consultants and clients who have used that tool, and they said it's very positive for them for getting a feedback on it. And I suppose we conduct our audits in two phases, phase one and a phase two. And at the end of phase one, which is a review of your documentation and standards and procedures, you'll get a feel for how ready you are at the end of the phase one model. And also, I suppose, if you get internal audits done by people who already know the standard, that'll give you a gap analysis for what work you need to do. So there's three methods you can use for knowing if you're ready.
Okay, brilliant. And another one for you, Dennis. We're not letting you off the hook that quickly. How should we select the controls that are applicable to us?
Well, I'd say most of the controls will be applicable to you. The only ones that won't be applicable to you will be probably the software. If you're not doing software development, they will be the ones that are not applicable to you. If there are other controls there that you just need to justify the reason why they are not applicable, and if that's a reasonable justification, that's fine. That'll be acceptable to us. You know, obviously, if the software development is straightforward, we don't develop software. If you say we don't develop software in the organization, obviously the software development lifecycle ones won't be applicable to you. But you know, if it's a reasonable justification, that will be acceptable by the auditor. We have all types of organizations certified, from construction companies to healthcare companies to in the fintech area, pharmaceutical companies. So you know, some of the controls won't necessarily be applicable to them, and some organizations adopt additional controls to the 93 that are detailed in the standard because they deem them applicable to them.
Okay, so I suppose we have to look at the controls and go through them as well. And
you got to go through them, yeah, and that's where the statement of applicability, which we mentioned. So you put together a statement of applicability detailing, you know, what the controls mean for you and the evidence that is available or the policies in the organisation that indicate that you have addressed those controls.
Absolutely. And this next question actually reminds me of school. You know, that this whole thing here. If issues are identified during the audit, does that mean the company has failed their certification?
It depends on the severity of the issues. I suppose that's a great answer. The great answer is it depends. It depends on what that issue is. If it's a critical issue and you have too many vulnerabilities sitting there, then you may end up failing the audit. But if it's an issue that can be resolved, we would ask you, you know, at the phase one, we will highlight some of the issues to you, and we'll agree a time frame for when you can resolve those issues. If it's at the phase two audit, we may ask you to implement a corrective action plan, and you come back to us with a root cause and a corrective action response to those issues that we have identified, and we review those issues, and if your response is adequate, we will forward you for registration. However, if it's a critical issue, which we deem as a type 1 issue, we'd ask you to have a look at it, and we'll come back and verify in a mutually agreeable time frame that you have adequately addressed what we would call a type 1 issue preventing registration. And if you've adequately addressed those and put in an appropriate corrective action plan, we will recommend you for registration. I suppose what I would say to companies is we're not looking for perfection in a company. We're looking for them to have done a reasonable risk assessment, put in risk treatment, and address the controls as applicable to their organization. And it's a journey because the threats and vulnerabilities are changing, and we like to work with organizations to improve their cyber resilience stance going forward into the future. So the focus is, again, is on improvement. There's no perfection in the world, and we're looking to improve your cyber resilience stance.
Brilliant. Dennis, thank you so much. I'm more enlightened. Hopefully everyone else is. So you mentioned another co-worker here in the NSAI that's absolutely brilliant. Let me see whether I can find her. Thank you, Dennis. And it's the amazing Callie. So Callie is going to talk us through the readiness questionnaire. So how to find out whether we're ready for this certification. Now, while Callie's getting ready, she's going to demo it for us now. It makes sense. Let's have another quick poll question or chance to win stuff here. And here's our poll question popping up here. Just as we wait for Callie to come in here, asking yourself, what stage are you at on your journey towards ISO 27001 certification? Are you A, just starting out, B, still working on it, C, nearly there, or D, certified? So that's the question, just to vote in the comments section right now. Very rude of me not to really properly announce Callie. So it's Callie Samira. Callie is a cybersecurity certification officer here at the NSAI. She's certified, which is good, in ISO 27001, and she's one of our lead auditors. So you're very, very welcome, Callie.
Thank you, Greg. Welcome, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we
And
can
can
see
you
your
hear me
screen.
okay?
We can hear you brilliantly. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. Just going to go down through how to conduct a self-assessment for your information security management system. So this is the landing page where you got your link to register for this webinar. If you scroll down, you're going to see, is your organization ready? And you will have access to the self-assessment tool. So if you click on that, you're going to get then the Excel spreadsheet. You can download it. You can download a copy and then use it to assess your self-assessment, your information security management system. So I've already downloaded a copy. Here it is on the screen. The first page gives you details about what the tool does, what it doesn't do. Like if you, all the disclaimers, if you get a likely high score, for example, it's not a certification, it's just a self-assessment. Here you have a link to get more information about how to get certified. And then you have a presentation of the overall tool. So different tabs that I'm going to go through in a few minutes. How it works, then you will have to provide yes or no or not applicable answers to a series of questions. And that's how your score is going to be derived. Now, if you meet less than 25% of the requirements of ISO 27001, you are not ready to go for certification. And this is here. If you meet between 25 and 50% of the requirement, your readiness is likely low. And same if you go above 50%, so between 50% and 75% of the requirements, you're likely intermediate. And above that, then it's likely high. And down here, you have some links to the standards shop, where you can get a copy of the standards and a copy of the vocabulary used in this context. So going down through the tabs here, you'll have a list of clauses. And if you're already certified, you are familiar with these, context of the organization, leadership, planning, support, operation, performance, and improvement. And then the add is then the controls that Dennis mentioned. So you have different categories of controls and what the objectives of these controls are. So from A5, so organizational controls, to people controls, physical controls, A7, and then technological controls. Then you have your questionnaire, and here this one is an empty copy, so there's nothing here. For each non-applicable answers, you'll have to provide a rationale just to justify why this particular requirement is not applicable. And these are grouped by clauses. In the controls questionnaire, it's grouped by controls categories, so organizational, people, physical, and technological. Then you have your results. You have a clauses score and control score. And both of these then give you your overall readiness score. So here you can see that it's not ready because we didn't feel anything. And you have links again to guidance documents, 27003, 27002, and 27001. Now, I will provide an example here of a fake company. I called it Cali's Food that I just created. I pre-filled some of these, so some of these are no, we don't have it, and some of them are yes, we do have it. I'm just going to finish that now. Actions identified have been implemented. Yes, we have done that. And do we retain documented evidence? No, we need to work on documentation, so I'm going to say no. In the controls, then, do we have protection against malware? We do have an antivirus software. And do we test it? Yes, we do. So I'm going to say yes. And audits, yes, we do that. So I'm going to say yes to this. If we go up, then we're going to see some of the requirements are not applicable to us because we don't develop software. We do food for organizations. Now, if we go down to the results of this assessment, we can see that we are likely high in the controls, so it's quite good, and we are likely intermediate in the clauses. So we can see here that in performance evaluation, so clause 9, we are a bit low. So I'm going to come to this side and see Clause 9, some recommendation. So I need to look at mentoring and measurements and how we analyze the results and how we evaluate if we meet the objectives of our ISMS. And maybe I need to look also into internal audits and management review to improve this score. And again, you can get more guidance on this on 27003. And here is a link here to get that. And you can get also guidance on implementing controls in 27002 right here. So if there are any questions now, I will be happy to take them. Thank you.
Brilliant, fascinating. So just I mean, it sounds the most basic question of all time, but this is primarily our starting point, the place where we go and I suppose take a little bit of time to actually feed in the right information to find out, how do we qualify and how do we go about obtaining this qualification. There is a question that popped in, and let me just pop it up here on the screen here. Yeah. If the tool identifies that I need to improve in clause 9, for example, how do I address what needs to be changed and where do I get guidance for that?
Okay, so there are standards that provide guidance for that type of thing. So for the clauses, we have 27003, and I have a copy here. I can see it. 27003, information techniques, technology security techniques, and this is the guidance for implementing controls. So if we go down to clause 9 straight, performance evaluation. So you can see that this is the required activity. So it tells us what the clause is, and then it explains what the auditors will be looking at. So you need to identify what to monitor and measure, who monitors those, who measures, and this is all in relation to assessing if you meet your objectives, because at the beginning you're going to have objectives to implement your ISMS, your information security management systems, and towards the end you need to verify that those objectives are met. So you need to have KPIs, you need to have someone looking after that, and all of that needs to be managed. So the guidance is provided here, and you have additional details to implement those changes.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. And again, a really simple question, but just in case anyone missed it, to get to this tool, where do I go on your website? So very often we go to a website, we get a little lost. So if you can just remind us exactly where we go, just we have that one nailed, because this is obviously an important tool for us to use.
Sorry. Yeah. So I had it at the beginning. Sorry, I just lost my page here.
It's okay. It's a lovely desktop background you have there now. Nice calm canal.
Thank you. Thank you.
No worries. Just so you know, for anyone that down there, there's a promotion I see going down at the bottom of the screen there, just so you guys are aware of it. So a special offer, get a 40% discount on the purchase of ISO 27001 to 2003 with a promo code. So just so you know. So here's the website, Callie. That's brilliant. So I land here. Where do I go now?
Yeah. So this is the NSAI.ie website. Again, there is a landing page that was the ISO 27001 landing page, where everybody got their link to subscribe to this webinar. But again, if you go to the NSAI.ie website and you go to certification, you go under management systems, there is 27001 management system. It's here. And then scrolling down, you'll have your self-assessment tool right here. So there are 2 versions of this self-assessment questionnaire for now, but at the moment we we are transitioning clients who are already certified, so there will be no new applications to the 2017 version. So we're going to go to the 2022 version of the standard. So it's here, and there is a little video here to show how to use the tool.
Fabulous. Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, so there's a great starting point for us all. Callie, thank you so much. I learned loads. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
So next, who's next on the hot seat? Well, it's not really a hot seat. We have the fantastic Avril O'Brien. So hi, Avril.
Hi, Greg. How's it going?
It's going good.
Great.
So now you're the quality manager at Cognizant Life Science. I know it was formerly Zenith Technologies. Now,
right.
What's really interesting, I can't wait for your presentation here. What's really interesting is, we're kind of look at how a company implements this. So how businesses in Ireland are approaching the transition and the execution to the implementation of ISO 27001. That's the plan anyway. So I'm sure you have amazing insights. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up, if it's okay with you, Avril,
Sure.
your slides. Hopefully you can see them there. And
there,
I'm going to zip up, not say a word, and leave the stage to you, Avril.
Okay, great. Thanks, Greg. Good afternoon, everybody. As Greg mentioned, my name is Avril. I'm the quality manager in Cognizant Life Science Manufacturing. And we were Zenith Technologies prior to being acquired by Cognizant. So I'm just going to have a chat with you about how we got our certification, the structure of it then in our QMS, what it means for us, and then aiming for the 2022 standards. So currently we are still certified to 2017. So the 2022 version is on the horizon for us, hopefully. So in 2018, Zenith decided to go for the certification, both for improved security and reliability to our customer and to enhance our reputation. And we established we implemented a team to kind of establish how we would gain this certification, and we trained up various people in the company on it. I myself was trained on as lead auditor for the standard, and then we got some training on the standard itself as well. So, once we had this, we knew that it was going to portray to our customers that we were committed to security of our assets and the systems in the business. So it was a great. Once we convinced our stakeholders, it was a great achievement for us in the end, and it shows our reliability and compliance of our services to our customer, and we achieved that in 2019. And I suppose at the time when we achieved this, GDPR was a hot topic. It had just come into play in May 2018, so this was almost the de facto certification to say that we were compliant with GDPR for us. So it really hit the nail with our customers to show that we were compliant as regards to that, and as regards to the storage of our information as well. Just to note there, while we were acquired by Cognizant, we still remained with our own separate certification due to the fact that we have some separate systems still that are kind of Zenith controlled. So we've maintained our own certification to the standards. Just to kind of talk about our structure then, and how we structured the standard in the company. So since 2004, we were already certified to 9001. So this meant that we already had a great structure in place to be able to support the implementation of it. So, we were able to, it made it a lot easier to incorporate it. So we were able to merge our existing quality manual to become a quality and ISMS business manual. And we were able to incorporate all the clauses essentially to kind of incorporate the two of them. So this became a high level kind of a manual, kind of business manual QMS ISMS document for us. This then is kind of the document that we use as well as an overarching document for how we approach standards through our quality management system. And we use this manual to familiarize our customers and any of our external interests on how we have implemented the controls on our QMS for the standards. Next then we have the context of the organization document that Callie and Dennis mentioned. And this is a separate document. This identifies, I suppose, internal and external issues which impact on our ability to achieve our objectives, so that we can address them then through risks and observations. And then we have these listed inside in that document, so both internal issues and external issues. So we monitor these as well. So like just an example of an external issue might be for us, for everybody would have been the coronavirus, and how we address it's a risk and an opportunity, how we would deal with this, and how our strategic management might approach the management of this. And then maybe, for example, an internal issue might be the management of something like how you would deal with attrition or something in your company. So we would list these kind of issues in that document. Next, then we have the statement of applicability. So this document is, kind of overarching document as well. We have our Annex A document that lists the statement, that has the lists out all the items in the Annex A, and then we tick off the applicability and how we meet all of those. We also then have a quality policies in place. So, for example, just some of our quality policies might be things like password policy, how you manage your passwords in the company, desktop, teleworking, clear desk, clear screen, all that kind of thing. All the important things for the standard, simple things like not getting up and leaving your desktop open, these kind of things. And we would train all of our people on these policies as well, because these are kind of enforced from management down. Next, then we would have our standard operating procedures, and then these basically outline kind of key activities and how we carry them out. And then again, lower than that, then we'd have our work instructions, which is our meat and our bread and butter of how we execute our work. And then records is, extremely important. These are your evidence of conformance to your QMS requirements. So that's kind of how we have structured the standards, the two standards concurrently in our QMS. So just to talk with you on the SOA, I wanted to kind of show you an example of how R1 looks, just give you the headers. So this is an example of R1. So what we have done basically is we have taken, as you can see there, we have the reference to the standards, the ISO title, the objective of that, and then the description of implementation, which is how we meet that requirement. So that might be through, like I mentioned, a password policy, risk might be through risk management, enterprise risk management. And then we would touch on the applicability of it to us, the scope of it in the business, and then the key justification for that applicability. So some of the key justifications might be a risk requirement, it could be a business requirement or a legislative requirement around data protection. So we would address all of that here, and then we refer out to our key control, which is any of our policy or procedure documents. So what certification means for us. So, the benefits for us were just phenomenal, really. I mean, compliance to this in 2019, as I mentioned earlier, was a de facto basically certification for GDPR. And it meant that, we were compliant, and also our IT systems were compliant as well. And it increased and improved our reputation with our customers and our business, and our business partners. It gave them an increased amount of confidence at a time, I suppose, when it was a really a buzz factor and a big, really important in the industry. It also, our performance increased our reliability and security of our systems and information. And, by having to do all of these risk assessments for the certification and identifying the controls that we needed to put in place, we were able to, identify any weak areas. And we established risk management structures for both an enterprise and project level, which we maintain, and as well for the ISMS. So also another aspect of the ISMS is the asset inventory. So a lot of businesses, we probably thought initially before we got the standard, we probably thought that we were doing great asset inventory of all of the assets in the company. But once we actually went through all of the assets, it's a big company. We had an awful lot of assets, and management of same is a big issue as well. So that was really interesting exercise as well for all of us in the team. We also identified a plus for us. We identified our quality and our security critical suppliers, and then we were able to assess them based on the same. So we have in our approved vendor list, we've identified whether they're quality critical or security critical, and then we would address them in our auditing based on that. It also reduced risk to the business information due to having, ongoing training program in the company. So a big one for us would be training of all of our personnel. We add, it goes beyond just presentations and emails. We actually sit them down, we train them, and then we also send out phishing emails to test them. I'm sure a lot of companies probably do it. And then whoever clicks on them, they're notified, and then they would have to do a bit of retraining. So, we're constantly keeping everybody on their toes, trying to kind of, catch people out and make sure that they have an extremely heightened awareness to any of these kind of cyber attacks that are, hugely prevalent at the moment. So also having 27001 has increased confidence both internally and externally on the C and the I and the A of our data. So confidentiality, some customers previously, prior to getting the standard, had asked us about, had asked our project teams to sign confidentiality agreements, even though we'd already signed them as part of contracts. So, this was once we got the standard, that was just not an issue anymore. Integrity, which is absolutely huge for us in our industry, the integrity of our data. The standard further implied adherence to policies that we have in place and increases, the confidence with our customers that we have logical and physical security in place in relation to our information. And then I suppose the availability is another one, a huge one for every company, is having a defined disaster recovery in place, business continuity plan. And we also have data loss prevention in place here. And everybody is aware of, not sending, because of the training and such, the constant training that we give out. Everyone's aware about not, leaking or not, sending out information to unintended people. And I suppose the last one then, which was another great, huge success, was the reduced audit frequency with our customers. So prior to this, we were getting constant audits, for QMS audits, and then we were kind of getting a lot of audits as regards to security systems. And once we had the standard in place, we found that a lot of our customers just increased confidence in us. They were just sending us questionnaires, and we were able to, give them a copy of anything that was required in this questionnaire, and it was satisfactory, and it absolutely reduced our audits, in-house audits with a lot of our customers. So that was a bonus. So for us now, we have to look forward, aiming for the 2022 standard. So it's kind of early days for us yet. We're in the middle of looking at it. A lot of the controls that have been introduced, the new controls we are already doing. So it's just a case of updating our SOA. So we have, as the others mentioned earlier on, there are now only the 4 categories in the Annex A. And then there are 24 merge controls, and 58 of them have been updated. So in order for us to look at that, we're going to undertake a gap analysis on our SOA, and look at we're still in the planning stages of that, and we're going to do a kind of a gap analysis between the 2017 standard and the 2022 standard, and see how we meet it, or what we need to implement, any new policies that we might need to implement, any new trainings that we're going to need to implement. And I suppose, we're also going to identify any of those owners, process owners, that are going to ultimately be responsible for, these processes as well, and that already are responsible for them. We're going to update our ISMS registers, including our risk registers, and then the mitigation for those as well. And then, again, the really important one is identifying any new trainings out of this gap analysis that we're going to do, and update our training curriculums for our personnel. And then I suppose for us, very importantly, in order to introduce that change, we're going to have to write and create a change control in order to capture this change to our systems. So there is a bit of work in place, but we're quite hopeful that we have already met a lot of the requirements. The SOA is such a fantastic document to have, as I showed you there, the headings, and to be able to identify the objective, and then to be able to explain how you can meet it. And I mean, some of you probably already have some of these policies and procedures in place, that you're already meeting some of these requirements. So yeah, thank you very much.
Brilliant, Avril. I mean, it really strikes me that not only does this certification and going through this process makes us more secure as a company, but I love the point that you made about the positive effect it has on your customers. It gives your customers more confidence to come and do business with you. So I
It's
think
huge, yeah.
that's a real benefit. There was a couple of questions. Did I see? Let me just have a quick look here. This question here came in. What was the most challenging issue that you encountered on your journey to ISO 27001 certification?
I'd say probably at the start was probably stakeholders, in kind of, I suppose, portraying the importance of the standard to some stakeholders who possibly didn't understand the importance of the standard itself and how it was going to really benefit the company. It took a while. Some of them were all for it. And then, it was becoming obvious that a lot of companies were beginning to come on board with it. And then, we got them on board and we haven't looked back. It's just really been a hugely beneficial certification to us.
Brilliant. And then one before I release, you've got David chomping at the bit to get in here. What particular benefits, you mentioned some of them, but what particular benefits did you notice when you obtained your ISO 27001 certificate?
I suppose, capturing and categorizing your data as well has been really important for us, and making sure that, the data that we have in the business is categorized appropriately. And once the customers also saw that, they were, hugely confident that any of the information that they were parting with us in order to execute projects was safe and was categorized properly, was stored properly, and then was retained only for the required amount of time. There were just really a lot of benefits with the standard. Even having, probably a big one for us as well was when we did an ISMS risk register, we identified that some of our servers were coming to end of life. And had we not done that, potentially there could have been downtime. And for us, an IT system downtime is a business downtime. It's a business failure. So, having that risk register in place has really allowed us that insight for, potentials further down the line.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Avril. And I want to echo someone else's sentiment. So this is Laura. Hiya, Laura. Is thanking you. And we're all thanking you. So it's great to get a user perspective. So a massive, massive thank you for your...
It's tough work, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I'd say it's massive work, but ultimately it focuses really the business onto something that's hugely important. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next on the list, David. It's the fantastic everyone. David. So
thanks very much, Greg.
You're a cybersecurity engineer with a massive background in data analysis. So we're blessed to have you here. Let me just make sure that your slides are looking good, and then I'll zip up and let you go. So,
all right. Yeah, we'll jump back. We'll jump back to slide one there. Thanks very much, Greg, for the introduction. Appreciate it. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today as we explore the process of certification. So we're going to look from the initial request for quotation to the final registration, or in some cases, continued registration decision. So again, this presentation will give you kind of comprehensive understanding of how the organizations achieve certification, specifically focusing on the ISO 27000 Information Security Management System, ISMS certification. So what's on the agenda today? Certification inquiries, what is the audit program, during the audit and post-audit. Okay, so in terms of your certification inquiry, so the journey from certification inquiry begins when the organization expresses interest in obtaining certification. This is typically through a request for quotation, and these inquiries can be submitted through various channels, either phone, email, or web forms. So the first step involves filling out the request for quotation. you can see here on the right-hand side, which outlines the ISMS specific requirements. Okay, and then so in terms of your quotation preparation, so upon receiving the inquiry, the NSAI prepares a quotation for the organization. This quotation includes a 3-year audit program encompassing the application fee, the assessment fee, the annual registration fee, and annual surveillance fee. So then in terms of the application for certification, once the organization accepts the quotation, they formally apply for the certification. During this phase, the allocation of applications and contract reviews is carried out. The operations manager plays a pivotal role in selecting the audit team that will assess your organization. Okay, so what is the audit program? It's a 3-year cycle. Okay, so the audit program is a critical component of the certification process. It includes the initial registration audit conducted in 2 stages. Stage 1, preliminary assessment, and stage 2, registration assessment. Surveillance audits are also conducted in the 1st and 2nd years, followed by a reassessment audit in the 3rd year before certification expiration. So this is how we determine the audit time. Okay, so the operations manager is responsible for determining the audit time. We have to consider various factors such as the relevant management system standard, organization size, complexity, technological and regulatory context, prior audit results, if required, and more. This ensures that the audit is thorough and comprehensive. So the audit preparation and determining audit objectives, scope, and criteria. So the audit objectives are set by the NSAI, and the audit scope and criteria established after discussions with the client. So we have a chat with you guys. And the details along with other specifics are documented in the audit plans, covering stage 1, stage 2, surveillance and reassessment audits. So the initial registration audit is a 2-stage process. So stage 1 involves the preliminary assessment, and stage 2 focuses on the registration assessment. So stage 1 assessment ensures the organization's readiness for stage 2 assessment, and any significant issues identified in stage 1 must be addressed before the registration assessment in stage 2. The timing of stage 2 depends on the outcomes of stage 1, as discussed earlier by my colleagues here. So stage 2, the audit evaluates the implementation and effectiveness of the client's information security management system. It's conducted professionally and efficiently by the lead auditor, like myself or Dennis, and includes elements like facility tours, interviews, and examination of your documentation and records. So surveillance audits ensure that certified organization's information security management system continues to meet the requirements between reassessment. This involves monitoring and reviewing various aspects, including operation controls and processes. So in terms of your maintaining your certification, so surveillance audits are conducted at least once a calendar year and assess actions taken from the previous non-conformities, internal audits, management reviews, and more. They help maintain confidence in the certified information security management system compliance. So, and then at the end of your 3-year cycle is your recertification or reassessment. A reassessment model evaluates the continued fulfillment of the information security management system standard requirements. It also considers over the certification period and reviews previous surveillance audit reports. Okay, so what to expect during the audit? Okay, so we'll have an opening meeting, okay, which is held between the audit team and the client's management to establish the common understanding of the audit process and objectives. Okay, typically a tour of facility of the client's facility is conducted to observe processes and practices, providing insight to the organization's information security management system. So in terms of communication, effective communication between the audit team and the client is vital for a successful audit, ensuring clarity and understanding. In terms of audit trail, so how we collect, recording, verifying information, and audit findings. So objective evidence is collected during the audit to validate compliance with the audit objective, scope, and criteria. This evidence is recorded on an audit trail. So an audit report. So the lead auditor is responsible for preparing the audit report, which may include recommendations for registration or conditions for continued registration. So, and then at the end, we'll conduct a closing meeting. Okay, so a closing meeting is held between the audit team and the client's management team to discuss the findings and conclusions. So, post-audit. Okay, so cause analysis of non-conformities. So the client is required to analyze any of the root causes of non-conformities and describe the corrective actions. In terms of the corrective actions are evaluated for their effectiveness, and the recommendations for registration or continued registration is made only when the lead auditor is satisfied with the client's action plan. In terms of a recommendation for registration or continued registration is based on compliance with the audit findings and the resolution of non-conformities. The recommendation is subject to compliance with certain conditions if necessary. And on the slide, you can see a template for of the certification received from the NSAI. This cert is fully accredited internationally and accepted globally. It includes the name of the company and scope of the certification. And the NSAI logo can be also used on websites, email signatories, stationery to indicate accredited certification of the ISO 27001. So look, in conclusion, the certification process from RFQ to the final decision is a comprehensive journey that ensures the organization meet a stringent standard and requirements. It promotes the development of robust information security management systems and adherence to quality practices, ultimately enhancing trust and credibility in the certified organization. And thank you everybody for coming and your attention.
Superb. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, David. What we might do very quickly, I'll keep you on the screen there, Dave. What we might do very quickly, remember that first poll question that we had. Let's vote on that again. Let's see whether there's any knowledge that's come in that makes us feel a little bit more confident when it comes to our knowledge of our certification journey for ISO 27001. And whilst you guys are voting on that quickly, we might have a couple of quick questions before we wave a teary goodbye to each other. So I want to welcome back onto the stage Avril and Dennis and Callie, hopefully in a minute. She's there she is. Yes, there's our fantastic speakers right there. So a huge thank you for today, and we'll see whether there's. I think there was one or two quick questions. These guys, just to warn you guys, these didn't look like very easy questions to answer. I'd say the first one Dennis may want to pop into, but let's get down to the bottom line, the brass tacks of it all, if you like. So the question is, what's the cost of this?
That's a great question. It depends, I suppose, is one way of answer. But for a company with say 40 people, the registration would cost around 10,000 euros, or just give an approximation. But it depends on the size and the complexity of the organization. I mean, if you have a small company, that's what it does cost. And then there's a cost on an annual basis. But if you have sites in Europe, USA, and Ireland, and the UK, there is going to be additional cost as well. So what I'd recommend you do is you send us in an RFQ, and we will give you a detailed cost over the 3-year period for what the registration costs will be. But we say approximately 10K for about 40-person company with one site located in the Republic would be a typical registration audit cost. So, if you're a critical service infrastructure provider or a banks or, the tier 1 hospital, there is additional risk implied there. So we evaluate it based on the risk and the number of personnel within the scope of the system. So the more personnel, human error contributes a lot to information security, and so the more people within the scope of the audit, the more risk there is in the audit. So it is risk-based, the calculation based on the number of audit days we spend on site to register an organization.
Okay, well, that was a great answer. That's a
Thanks.
fantastic answer. Now, another one, and this is more just a recap of our session. So I don't want to. So we talked about loads of benefits when it comes to this certification. But who would like to wrap up what the main benefits for this certification are?
I
Don't
suppose,
all speak at once.
I suppose they should benefit your organization. You know, if it makes marketing sense for your organization to have the 27001, then you should have it. If it's going to improve your systems, improve, you know, at the end of the day, you want to improve your cyber resilience, and you want to be able to go out there and tell your customers when you do business with us, you are not bringing on any additional cyber risk into your supply chain process. So, you know, you should use it as a tool to grow your business, expand it, and give confidence to your customer base. And I suppose when you give confidence to your customer base, you also give confidence and to your internal employees as well. You know, that their information is all secure, and they know what to do to keep their jobs secure, and you know, to have a resilient organization, because the threat landscape is continually changing. As we said, there are going to be threats coming into the future as well. It's only going to get you know, the threat actors are getting smarter all the time, so we have to stay at least one step ahead of them.
1,000%. And then the very last question, I suppose that we'll take, I'm conscious of people's time here, was now, Avril, you mentioned about internal resources a bit. What internal resources are required for this? Because that's vital. So maybe I'll ask Avril that question, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So I suppose for us, we have a quality department, we have a quality team, and then importantly, you know, you'd have to identify your processes, and like it kind of involves every discipline really in the company, from recruitment, IT, you know, everybody, quality, our engineers. You know, it's good to get possibly one person from each discipline involved, and maybe an implementation team. It could be one approach that you could use. You're going to need, you know, process owners that are going to be identified, and you want to have their input when you're implementing the standard.
Fantastic, yeah. So brilliant insights there. So to all our fantastic speakers, thank you guys so much. I'm certainly more knowledgeable when it comes to the certification than I was before the webinar. I know it wasn't intended for me, but ultimately it was fantastic. So a huge thank you. A couple of things just to reiterate. If you do have questions on this, you know, do email us. So info@nsai.ie. If you missed it earlier on, there was a code, a 40% discount on the purchase price of ISO 20001 certification. There's a promo code there, NSAI 27,001. So just make a note of that. What other things? And just remember where Callie mentioned where we need to go. So where we find our templates and resources, we can find them on our website. So what you have to do to get there is www.nsai.ie/20,000 to 20,001 is where we go there. So that's it. The other thing, I don't know about you guys, but I feel with a session like this that I walk away, my head's hurting. You guys made my head hurt. So just so you know, we are going to upload this webinar to our official, that's my timer telling me to hurry up, to our official YouTube channel. And sometimes it's a great idea is literally keep an eye out for it, to re-watch it and find out whether there's something you want to revisit, or Avril said something, but I can't quite remember it. Again, you can watch back the session on a YouTube channel. And last but not least, this is our first webinar in this subject matter. So I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and being a part of it. Great engagement. And it's interesting to see that even in the comment section that our knowledge has increased. In a mere 60-second period, our knowledge when it comes to this certification has increased significantly. So a huge thank you, guys, for tuning in. And we'll have all our speakers wave goodbye now. Teary wave goodbye. So we'll see you guys soon.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Good
Have a
day.
lovely day.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.
Cheers,
Bye.
cheers, cheers, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.